Hi, I've been looking at a couple of apps. I've been using Periscope for the past week or two and did my first proper broadcast last night. And I was quite surprised how many people just come along and troll. I think I had at one time about 20 people that were viewing the broadcast, and probably half of them were just trolling and I was blocking, and you can block them. But it led me to think about just talking a little bit about it today. So is Periscope an advantage or a disadvantage? Is it good or bad? Is it evil? A little bit of a mixture, I think, of both sides. It's certainly got its good points, but yes, it's got its things you got to be wary of as well. One thing some people don't realise is location tagging is usually enabled unless you make the effort to disable it. In Meerkat, I don't know this. Sorry, in Periscope, Meerkat's a very similar kind of app, and you can not only see which town or city somebody lives in, but you can zoom in to greater and greater detail and get fairly accurately where somebody is broadcasting from. And as that's often from their home, or perhaps a place of work, but often from their home, it's something that you need to consider from a security point of view. Don't forget that in the background of the video you may have valuables. I'm just scanning my room now to see if you can see any valuables in here. All my diamonds and gold are hidden in the other room. But it's something that's worth considering that you may not realise, and quite innocently you're doing your broadcast. Remember, it's live, so any mistakes you make, anything you afterwards realise that I shouldn't have broadcast that. It's too late, it's already gone out. Unlike YouTube, where you could edit your YouTube video. So be very careful what you show in the video. If you're not careful, you could find that somebody could find out where you live and also target you because they've seen valuables in the house, especially if they're after specific items, TV sets or what have you. Periscope itself wouldn't give them an exact address, but you give them a fairly close address, and it might be that if, for instance, you had leaded windows in your house or something, or stained glass in the windows, it could be that your house is the only one in that road that has that feature, and somebody's seen it on the Periscope broadcast. Or something like that. They might be able to see it out through the window, see the garage or the car that's parked outside, or something that's in the living room that they can walk along the road and look through the living rooms until they see the house with the only one with net curtains, or lots of different things like that you can imagine. So be careful, because you are broadcasting to complete strangers a lot of the time. Some of them be on the other side of the world, but some of them will be people who live in the city or town near to you. Periscope's the only one I've actually used. I haven't used Meerkat, and there's another one called Younow, I think. But yeah, I mean, I've seen that where somebody's broadcasting and it's a young person, and then the messages on there can be very either sexual in nature or just very insulting in nature. And even I, last night when I did my broadcast, I was in bed and I had the covers pulled right up to my chin. And the people posting some horrible things, really, and also people seem to think it's some kind of dating service. Not that I was getting proposition, but you've seen broadcasts other people are making. Everyone seems to think that it's a tapping off place. I'm sure that does go on a little bit as well, but sometimes it's quite inappropriate. If somebody is texting abuse to you on your broadcast, you are able to block them, but the only problem with that I found was, although I can see the picture of me quite big on the screen, the text is down here, quite low down. I'm really small and I have to wear glasses, so I'm peering down there. By the time I've read it, very often I've just got the gist of the message and then it's gone off the top, so it can be difficult to know who it is you've got to block, and you just wait a few seconds to see if they send something else of a similar nature, and then you can block them. I think what happens is if you're blocked a certain number of times, then I think Periscope suspends your usage of the service. So hopefully those people do quite quickly get filtered out. But it is a difficult one because, as I say, I did a broadcast last night, and I'd say more than half, if anything, of the broadcasts were just people being stupid. Possibly because of the time of day I chose, I guess. I mean, if you broadcast at night time, you're going to get people who've had a few drinks on there, and so on. So maybe it's a nighttime thing that, but I did a quick broadcast before, had 2 viewers, less viewers, but both of those were quite polite, and that was a much better experience. Remember that when you're making a YouTube video, you can edit it, as I obviously have done here, and if you say the wrong thing or make a mistake, there's no problem really, because you can edit it out afterwards and either just not broadcast it or cover it over or take some action to rectify things. But with Meerkat, Periscope and now Younow, it's live broadcasting, so if you say something you shouldn't have said, let slip a secret perhaps, then it's too late, you've done it, it's gone out, and you don't know who's recording it maybe, and your own broadcasts are recorded as well, although you can delete them. So just you have to be careful what you say on there, because you could give some information away that you don't mean to. An issue which it's easy to fall foul of is that of copyright, because for instance in my flat now it's quiet, but if I had some music playing in the background and it was copyrighted music, then the chances are I'd be infringing copyright. Some people think that, because I was looking into this before, that you're allowed to use up to 30 seconds of copyrighted material, and that's an okay, but that's not true. If you use even 1 second apparently of copyrighted material, then that's a breach of copyright rules. And it could even be something as simple as the TV being on behind you, and you're effectively broadcasting what's probably copyrighted material on there as well. HBO, the television channel, recently were involved in a lawsuit over, sorry, not a lawsuit, but they contacted Periscope to have a takedown order in place because people had been broadcasting the premiere of Series 5 of Game of Thrones. I wish I'd known that, because I'd love to have seen it, but you can't, you're not supposed to do it, and so Periscope took the broadcast down. Apparently, if you're filming, you're not really filming in a way, you're doing a live broadcast, but if you're live broadcasting something like a theatre production, that's copyrightable. Even if you haven't been advised, it's copyrightable, because if something's scripted, well, if it's scripted, then it's copyrightable. If you're broadcasting a sports game, apparently, and you need to check on it, but I believe that's not copyrighted, but I could well be wrong on that. I mean, I don't know, the big football games, they sell their rights to the likes of Sky Sports and so on, so perhaps they do copyright the sports, but as I understand it, if you're broadcasting live sports, because there's no, or supposedly there's no choreographed or scripted aspect to the sport, generally speaking, then I understand that's not copyrightable, so you should be all right to broadcast that. One thing's for sure, it's reasonably cheap to get into, because what kid doesn't have a mobile phone these days, and mostly they're pretty good. I mean, the quality of the cameras on them now are excellent, and although the quality of something like, for instance, if you do broadcast a game, a football game say, although the quality obviously isn't going to be that of a television production, it's getting pretty darn good these days on mobile phones. I mean, you've got mobile phones now that can record in 1080 and 4K resolutions, and they're competing now with sort of quite decent quality video cameras. So that's something to bear in mind. It's cheap to get into, and it's something that I don't think is going to go away. It does have its conveniences, obviously. Socially, it's quite a pleasant platform. It's something that's quite enjoyable. Often before I go to bed of a night, as I go to bed, I'll sometimes just go onto Periscope and have a little browse around the world. And it's strange when you can be talking to somebody who's perhaps walking along the street in New York, and you're in bed here in England about to go to sleep at midnight or something, and you could be talking to somebody in Nairobi, or you could be talking to somebody, well, anywhere in the world. I don't need to know all the different places it could be, but it is kind of weird that you're talking to somebody in Australia and you're here in England and it's live. Sometimes they're not even talking, sometimes just somebody walking along the street filming the street scene, and you're watching a live broadcast as it occurs anywhere in the world. So it's certainly got its upsides as well. One of the advantages can be things like news coverage. I think recently there was a building collapse due to a fire in New York, and a number of people were periscoping live as it happened, footage, and then that was used by the news channels later on, and I think YouTube and things. So because of Periscope, there was footage of the incident as it happened. So that could be potentially a good use for Periscope. But you've also got to bear in mind how intrusive it could also be, because when you're walking along the street filming people generally don't like to be filmed, and of course they are being filmed, and you do have a right to film them in the street. So people, of course, are always on security cameras everywhere you go. You're on cameras all the time, or much of the time. But if you start waving cameras around in the street, not everybody likes it, and although you have a right to do that in a public place, you're allowed to film anything you want. But of course people walk into shops and film in there. As I understand it, all of the apps, I think, have an age limit guideline. But the problem with that is, how do you police it? Broadcasts are up there only for a fairly short time, and unless somebody reports the broadcast, then chances are that things are going out that shouldn't be going out. I think children in particular are quite vulnerable, as I've already mentioned. So there you go, difficult to police. So what do you think of Periscope and Meerkat and Younow? Please feel free to comment below and let me know what you think. You may think it's the best thing since sliced bread, and you may think it's the work of the devil, but I'd appreciate it if you'd make a little comment below. Thanks very much, and I'd also appreciate if you can consider liking and subscribing. The buttons are down there somewhere. Thanks. Bye.